Nobody falls for love bombing because they're naive. They fall for it because it feels like the realest thing that's ever happened to them. The attention, the intensity, the feeling of being truly and completely seen by another person. Not despite of who you are, but because of it. It feels like finally, like the thing you suspected existed but had stopped believing in, and that feeling is real. That's what makes this so hard to talk about. The warmth was real, the laughter was real, the flowers, the voice notes, the way he remembered every small thing you said. All of it was real. What wasn't real was why. This is every stage of love bombing. From the moment you were selected, to the moment there was nothing left to take. Stage 1, the selection. You don't approach randomly. You never have. The room is full of people, but you're not looking at the room. You're reading it. Who arrived alone? Who laughs too eagerly at things that aren't funny? Who checks their phone between conversations? Who holds themselves like they have something to prove? And then Zara, she's not anxious. That's what catches you. In a room full of people quietly auditioning, she isn't. She has the particular ease of someone who has done the internal work, who knows who she is, what she wants, what she won't accept. You feel something sharpen in you. Not attraction exactly. Recognition. She is a specific kind of person, boundaried, whole, self-possessed. And you have learned, across many years and many people, that the ones who seem least available are the ones who, once turned, hold the tightest. You give it 20 minutes. Let the room shift. Let her drink run low. Then you cross. The selection is never spoken. It has no ceremony. But it is the most important moment in everything that follows. Because from this point forward, nothing Ethan does is accidental. Stage 2, the mirror. He asks questions the way most people don't. Not to fill silence, but to actually receive the answers. He remembers the name of her business from the rooftop. He asks about it with a specific follow-up that shows he listened. She notices. Most people don't follow up on specifics. I started it because I was tired of building someone else's dream. She says, that's exactly it, he says. That's the only honest reason to build anything. He tells her he quit a corporate job 3 years ago for the same reason. He did, technically. The details are real. But watch how he deploys them, not as his story, but as her story echoed back in his voice. Every value she expresses, he reflects. Every wound she hints at, he matches. By the end of the coffee, Zara has the uncanny feeling of having met someone who thinks exactly like her. She texts Priya that evening. Met someone weird. Weird good. He actually listens. What she doesn't know, what she has no reason to know, is that Ethan doesn't have fixed opinions. He has a very sophisticated ability to locate yours and inhabit them. The mirror isn't showing her him. It's showing her herself. And there is nothing more intoxicating than feeling completely understood. Stage 3, the flood. The volume is new. That's the first thing. She's dated attentive men. But this is different from attention. This is saturation. He's in her day before she's fully in it herself. A good morning that arrives before her alarm. He's in her evening, a check-in that feels like warmth but also like an anchor. In the space of 10 days, the shape of her day has quietly reorganized around his presence. He texts a lot, Priya says, not accusing, just noting. He's thoughtful, Zara says. You could see Priya's face. A beat of something she decides not to push. The flood works because it feels like the opposite of what it is. It feels like abundance, like being chosen, like rare, extraordinary care. Because the world is full of people who don't show up, who half listen, who forget, who pull back. And here is someone who does none of those things. Here is someone who is simply, consistently, overwhelmingly here. Zara's nervous system begins to associate Ethan with safety, with warmth, with the specific dopamine of feeling wanted by someone worth wanting. This is the stage that makes everything that comes after survivable. The flood is the investment. He is buying equity in her emotional world before he ever makes a single withdrawal. And the withdrawals are coming. Stage 4, the pedestal. 3 weeks in, he tells her she's different. Not as a compliment delivered lightly, as an observation delivered with the gravity of someone who has searched for a long time. I've been in relationships where I was the only one who was really present, he says. His eyes find hers and hold them. You're present. That's rare. I don't think you know how rare that is. The pedestal is constructed carefully, stone by stone. You are different. You are rare. You understand things others don't. With you it feels like, finally. He deploys these slowly enough that each one lands, settles, becomes part of how she sees herself through his eyes. She starts to feel, quietly, that she is the best version of herself around him. That she thinks more clearly, feels more fully, exists more vividly when he is near. What she doesn't understand yet is that this is also a trap. Because once you accept the pedestal, once you begin to see yourself through the reflection of someone else's extraordinary regard, you become, without knowing it, afraid of falling off. And the person who built the pedestal knows exactly how to make you afraid of that fall. Stage 5, the first withdrawal. 1 month in. This is the first time. He cancels. That's all. People cancel. But notice the change in Zara's body. The way she sits at the set table with the candles she lit. The meal she made. Recalibrating. She checks the message again. Reads it for tone. Finds none. She texts back. Warm. Understanding. Of course, no worries. When he does reply, it's brief. Friendly but brief. The warmth at a fraction of its usual volume. She doesn't sleep well. This is the mechanism. The flood established a baseline, a level of warmth and presence that her nervous system now treats as normal. The first withdrawal doesn't feel like cruelty. Feels like loss, like sudden cold after weeks of heat. And the mind, confronted with unexplained loss, does what minds do. It searches for cause. It finds itself. What did I do? Was it something I said? Should I have? She doesn't finish the thought. But she's already begun the work of making herself responsible for his temperature. That's all he needed. That first small withdrawal was not carelessness. It was calibration. Stage 6. The cycle locks. The relationship now has a weather system. Ethan is the climate and Zara has become, without deciding to, a person who watches the sky. After every cold period he returns, warmer than before. More present. The version of him from the first weeks. And Zara, whose nervous system has been in low-grade distress, feels the relief so completely that she doesn't ask where he went. She's just grateful he's back. You seem different, Priya says. Good different or bad different? Priya takes a breath. You check your phone like you're waiting for a verdict. It's complicated. But when it's good, it's really good. The cycle locks when the person inside it begins defending it to the people who love them. When the intermittent warmth becomes evidence of the relationship's worth rather than evidence of its instability. When it's good, it's really good, becomes the sentence that justifies everything. Zara is now inside a system she didn't agree to enter. And the exit, which was obvious 2 months ago, is no longer visible from where she's standing. Stage 7, the dismantling. The pedestal is gone. You took it away so gradually she never felt the drop. She just noticed one day that the way he spoke to her had changed. Less reverence. More correction. The rare, extraordinary Zara has been replaced, in his language, by a Zara who overreacts. Who is too sensitive. Who needs to relax. I'm not doing this right now, he says, and leaves the room. Zara standing in the kitchen. Alone, the argument unfinished. Holding the particular helplessness of a person who came to a conversation with something true and left with nothing resolved. The dismantling is the final stage of love bombing. The bombing was never the point. It was the preparation. You flood someone with worth, you place them on a pedestal, you become the primary source of their sense of self. And then you slowly, casually withdraw all of it. Not all at once. Piece by piece. Because now she needs him to feel like herself. And he knows it. Something in her face changes. Not breaking. Solidifying. A Tuesday morning. Unremarkable. Zara is at her work desk, her business, her space, the thing she built herself. She gets a message from Ethan. She reads it. Sets the phone face down. She calls Priya. I need you to help me remember who I was before him. She doesn't leave dramatically. There's no confrontation scene. No final argument. She just stops being available. Stops adjusting her weather to his and stops reading the sky. A rooftop bar. Different city and a different event. Ethan standing slightly apart from a group. Drink loosely in hand. Eyes moving across the room. Not looking for anyone in particular. Just reading it. Across the room, someone new. Comfortable in herself. Not looking for anything. Ethan's eyes find her and something sharpens. The love-bombing instinct kicks in. Please subscribe to our channel for more secrets to how the human mind works. We will see you in the next one.